You shouldn't be watching no baddies if you don't know who Emmett Till is. You should. I feel like.
All right. Celestial rising, divine afternoon, and grand night to the beautiful divine mirage watching this mindful message. It is your divine reflection, divine messenger, and we are back with another message. I understand if you choose to and you enjoy these videos, make sure you like, comment, subscribe for more divine messages. And I just posted this on TikTok and Instagram, and of course I'm bringing it to YouTube because I'm just like, my goal for today is to post 4 videos on those platforms, but then I want to post 3 videos on YouTube. So I'm not gonna make this video too long, but I just want to be able to break down how traumatic and how painful this energetic frequency of what bloodline sorcerers cause upon Emmett Till, and how the pain that this being went through was an experience that we are still experiencing for today. When a carbonated youthful and elder mirage says, don't nobody care who the Emmett Till is, how about that? Or that face of like Emmett Till is proof that submissive trauma still programs my unconscious form of people daily because they are infatuated with altered genders, fighting for a Masonic bloodline that made an ignorant network for us to fight our thoughts, and that is called Zeus Network. And of course I want to pause it as well because we don't want to have that red money sign or whatever, because that's how we're not able to get paid, because people want to use profanity. But we're able to see the youth's frustration and what they don't care about. They feel as if people as a whole don't care about Emmett Till, but there are a lot of people in this world who still care about what happened to this being. And the thing is as well, the beings that did it to, so I want to say it was Malam and Bryant. And Malam and Bryant, if that's correct, so I have my notes, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, so Brian and Malam, when these two beings, when we'll get into all that, but when they kidnapped him, they weren't being the 6th ether version of what Emmett Till's cousins were able to predict, or what they were able to comprehend.
All y'all should really shut the fuck up. Bitch, don't nobody care who the fuck Emmett Till is. Bitch, how about that?
There's limits. Being a black person and saying, bitch, nobody cares about who Emmett Till is crazy. But being a black American and saying that shit is even worse. If you somehow don't know, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old African-American boy that was abducted and lynched in Mississippi after a white woman lied on him. He quite literally died over a white woman's tears. You're dumb.
And the thing is, they say he was whistling, but he had a speech impediment. So because he had a speech impediment, that means that his mother knew that he would stutter a lot. And for him to be able to sit with his thoughts and take his time and not run or overlap that quantum linguistic sorcery that he was spiritually in tune with, she told him to whistle to get the thoughts to process, for you to start sounding more articulate. And when he was doing that, the beings who were, if you really think about that, beings were jealous and envious and spiteful towards a 14-year-old. These energetic leeches really thought that a being who was 14 years old was going to take their wife. That's how insecure that bloodline is. And they come from our foundation.
That self comes on this internet and says no one gives a fuck about that shit. Crazy. Gee, then.
Okay.
It's morbid as fuck. Fuck about that shit, there's a line you just don't even cross.
And this is the result of what we forgot to empower ourselves in. Our empowerment comes from beating on each other. And what's very sad is the fact that a lot of these people are, of course, turned inside out. Their frustrations lie within the media as far as entertainment goes. And their frustrations towards what they project on the media is how they're able to be influential to younger generations, and why they look up to these inspiring beings who aren't being what they see themselves to be through their gender. Meaning that, for example, with the Luciferian occultic societies altering gender and DNA, These would basically be a bunch of men punching on each other to see who's more dominant. The most dominant man portraying as a woman will be the most paid. They'll have the most attention. They'll be the gatekeeper for these outlets, for Zeus TV or Zeus Network. And then the younger generations who want to be in the spotlight will look up to the being that has beat up all the other women or did this and that into submission to feel as if they're the most dominant. So, oh yeah, don't fuck with her because she'll whoop your ass. And that's what sparks the dopamine inside my people's carbon database. What makes it worse is a bunch of grown men who are not only trafficking women and making them fight for more money and more attention from the media, more views, more statistics to get the ratings to go up into the show. And not only just that, it's literally called Lucifer Network. So they're televising and mocking ourselves into looking like clowns in a shit show or a circus.
Diamond held her own. That bitch face was like Emmett Till.
And she thought that was funny. That bitch face was like Emmett Till. And since I told myself I already made a video, let me go ahead and just make a YouTube video. Let's just go ahead and make it easier for myself. So I want to go through this PowerPoint with you all real quick, just so that we're able to heal. And because I was figuring out what's the resolution, instead of just constantly repeating the story that we all have heard or should have heard. I know most people haven't even heard this story, but we have to be able to heal. Killing each other, beating on each other, hating the other side is not going to get us into a higher transcendence. We have to be able to end the hypnosis by not being silent towards it. When you have a broken heart, it heals, but it will always leave scar tissue by your divine observation of ignorant truth telling a lie. Because even though a lie, I still tell the truth. It was, once again, it was embedded. It was an aping addiction that they couldn't stop doing. The thought forms that were constantly doing this to us knew they couldn't stop doing it because that was how they were able to feel dominant. And then when they seen how powerful we were, they had to figure out how to make us powerless. So where do you think sagging or buck breaking came from? That's exactly why. By them mutilating his face and his vessel, that was to send a message towards biological men to submit to what we thought masculinity looked like. Because that's basically a message saying for his face, if we can do it to Emmett Till, we can do it to you. So bow down to us or else. And if we didn't bow down to them, they were going to bend us over. We'll pause for one. But they were going to bend us over. But not only just that, though. They would do it in front of the community. And I'm talking on the plantation, just in the 1950s and beforehand. But they would put us in front of the whole plantation. They would have everybody gather at a certain time. And it was for humiliation as a ritual. And then when that happened, they would unclothe this being, so it would be a man or a child, and then the oppressor or the slave master, the overseer, would force themselves onto this person, and as the being screams, begging for help, begging for mercy, they're tied up to a lamppost or whatever. Not only were they getting beaten and whipped on and spit on and all that, but they're getting humiliated and they're getting taken advantage of in front of the whole entire community. And the people who look like me are watching this being getting aped in front of their faces, to where they're showing you and telling you that we have one of your people on our side, because of course we also have one of our own working for the slave master or the oppressor with a rifle or a gun on a horse, just looking, shaking their head. But if we move and say, what the fuck you doing? The gun's pointing right at our face, and we looking at our brother and our sister like, you gonna aim a gun at me for asking you why the person that you're working for is doing this to our people, and you gonna kill me for asking this question and moving to save my my being? That's how they were able to keep us in compliance with their submission. Because all this stuff is just hatred. It's internal hatred that they have towards themselves, because this warfare goes beyond divinity. This is a divine warfare that's been happening before Lucifer rebelled against itself. Luciferians always conduct ritual sacrifices that are meant to harness our emotional energy. And this is purposely done through fear, rage, sorrow, envy, unconsciousness, mind control, mind possession, and hopelessness. And they're very successful. Masonry, all that. The occultic societies and secrecy, they are prominent, they're very efficient, they're successful in possessing our mind, controlling our mind the moment we feel hopeless. When we start fearing something that we think we know or that we've been taught to know, that's when now our consciousness, their unconsciousness, which is basically controlled by higher possessions of higher mind control, they will feed into that because now it's hopeless to even want to fight back. Emmett Till's brutal murder was not only a racist act, it was meant to cast illusions into a form of our own suffering that is still ritualized today. Luciferian systems publicly display this massacre so the collective psyche of carbon beings would feel the message that will echo for eternity. And yet and still, people will make it seem as if it's not important to talk about or even learn from the situation. That's exactly why he was and still is a blood sacrifice to traumatize infinite consciousness, because black is not a color. Because for one, we're not black people, because if we were black people, why doesn't our skin look like this? If our skin looked like this, we would basically be the universe walking in a vessel, a human's vessel. And they would definitely have to disintegrate our existence. Okay, but yeah, so by that murder happening, I feel like Emmett Till is also an actor as well, but I don't want to go I don't want to go down into that rabbit hole, but I'm going to have to go into that rabbit hole because I feel like with the experience, Emmett Till's a title upon what they thought they could massacre, what they thought they could lynch or kidnap. And they were setting the tone because in the 1955, there was a reawakening happening. And by our beings being awake, it was George Lee and Lamar Smith. They were trying to register carbonated beings to vote. But that's the problem right there. When they decided to get us to vote for Luciferians, and those two beings thought that it was going to work, the Constitution or the hierarchies just killed them on the Constitution steps or the building steps that they were able to vote on or wanted to vote on, or they were wanting to riot against to communicate their frustrations on why they are not able to vote for putting people into power. But it's like, why are we voting to put people into power, to keep on enslaving the power that we have internally? So and when that happened, that's why too, I'm gonna get into that later on, but just hold on to this fact, because him being an actor, or her, doesn't even matter, but him being an actor is the reason why this spirit lives on through all of us. But it's a reminder of how we should be empowering ourselves. And that's why he was sacrificed on the 33rd parallel in Mississippi, because if you just go ahead and research what parallel is Mississippi existing on, it'll say 33rd parallel. And then Chicago's the 42nd parallel. So by him being in Chicago and then descending down into a lower realm of subconscious entities, they felt his energetic spiritual frequency. And when they were already in an awakening for just sacrificing two beings who just wanted to have reparations for voting, they sensed a new energy coming into play in their town in Money, Mississippi. And when they sensed that, that's when they had to be able to get the ritual started. They need a blood sacrifice so that they can send a message for us to bear for today. The open casket funeral, which was encouraged by his mom, was a mirror that still shows a mass trauma transmission that our people still forget to transmute. How they feared our blueprint and mimicked their fear into being embedded into our bloodstream. Their pain of the lives they can't live with, and how they fed powerlessness into our cultural memory. That's exactly why, ever since the beginning, when they kept sacrificing us, they already understood that we're going to always reincarnate back. But if they were just able to descend our consciousness by putting different programs into our blood, now it's like we're in bondage to their bloodline. So they did this to where, and this still goes on today, but as they keep sacrificing my people, as they keep humiliating my people, fame is basically a public lynching. When a celebrity gets exposed, that's just them getting lynched by the oppressors who are aping them behind closed doors. They're bending them over to see how much they can take. And if you can take the public humiliating you and not knowing what you're actually doing behind closed doors, then you're built for the next level. And that's exactly why our people sell out for $1 bill, because they're going to constantly sacrifice our neuromelanin. The timing and location were, in my bad, y'all, I'm still recovering from a cold, but I'm actually getting better, been fasting and drinking a lot of water, so just excuse me. I'm just trying to heal up, or healing up, basically, not trying. The timing and location were intentional by four-dimensional sorcerers and jinn. And jinn are entities that possess no body. Can't make it up. So let's go ahead and... So for example, so it comes from the Arabic jinn, a plural noun that means both demons or spirits, and also literally hidden from sight. And we already talked about that yesterday with Yaki Awaken, but for the ones who are new here, they can also manipulate reality and are best known for their ability to possess people. In fact, jinn are very similar to demons in this respect. According to these legends, it is very bad news for a jinn to fall in love with someone. So by whoever it was, Brian or Milan, when they fell in love with whoever this whistleblower was, her tears are the reason why Emmett Till was killed. But Emmett Till wasn't even trying to holler at her. He was just trying to... We don't know what he was doing because the information on that experience is still... It's still taboo. It's still in smoke and mirrors, literally. I say smoke and mirrors because even in Freemasonry, you can get into the society, but you still won't know what the higher degrees are doing. So it was just all meant to happen. Unfortunately, it sucks, but that's why we have to learn from these choices that Emmett Till actually never made, but was observing through his maker. Ooh. Ritual sacrifices that are crafted in Luciferian bloodlines are not random because they constantly happen at precise and calculated times, along with places that reside in the third or parallel, as he was coming from the 42nd parallel. And even in gematria, you can do it on your own time. I already taught you how to do gematria. We don't gotta really keep on dissecting gematria, but I choose to. But with gematria, with Emmett Till's spiritual script, the four-dimensional architects that manipulate reality, they understood what Emmett Till was about to go down into. That's why they put him down there. They knew what he was going to go down into because they scripted it to happen like that in this time period that's still going on for today. Meaning that the past is our future being expressed currently. And our frustrations are expressed currently, but we don't know how to articulate our thoughts nor our feelings. So we express that by saying, fuck this person, fuck that, because somebody exposed you to what you watch or what you're entertained by. And I do agree. You shouldn't be watching baddies if you don't know who Emmett Till is. You shouldn't be watching these websites or these shows or these movies or whatever, entertainment just in general. You shouldn't be watching degenerate shit if you don't know your history, if you don't know your people or what happened to your people or what is happening to your people every single day. This was the beginning of the civil rights era, and before Emmett's death, George Lee and Lamar Smith were trying to register carbonated beings to vote and got killed for doing so. This became the emotional fuel for movements that were infiltrated and manipulated by controlled opposition. Even the Black Panther Party and all that too. A lot of people back then, they realized that we can still go against the white supremacy or white supremacist ideologies that they live in, and a lot of my people were in a situation like Fred Hampton, so basically a Judas, working for the other side, working for the Romans, and then when the Romans offered them to be a spy for them for the money, of course, that's when our people were looking at our communities as we were fighting in secrecy against the actual Satanists, Luciferians, the people who were at the bottom with us. They realize that to get to the top, you got to sell out your people so you can be with the people that aren't actually your people. That's the whole contradiction right there anyways. The Luciferians, the Masons, secret societies, they understood that if this carbonated deity is willing to sell out his own people, oh, then we can do anything to this person. And that's the problem with our movements for today. Even like Black Lives Matter. That whole movement right there was just showing you how our own people will infiltrate the minds of our communities to keep them right back into bondage from the Jesuits. Mississippi, with the bondage of their story of what they think slavery should be upon us, became an energetic slaughter plantation for repeating cycles of higher oppression. And I've been to Mississippi before as well, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. For one, it's the most boring place, the most boring state in this whole dimension. Not only just that, the vibes or the vibration it gives off when you're there, it's nothing to do. It's boring. It's country as fuck. But just the trees, the houses, the way of living, the roads, the schools. the structure of the buildings. It all comes from just traumatic experiences that are still going on in that state of mind, basically. Luciferians understand and manipulate the power of imagery and sound so they can be used as mind control weapons. And that's literally how they're able to fool us, through imagery and sound. And I want to say somebody named Willie, I may be wrong, but somebody named Willie ended up hearing, they were being nosy, they ended up hearing him getting beat in his barn. And who knows what was going on inside the barn, but he was getting beat and all this, getting just tortured. And it got so bad to where the person who was eavesdropping didn't even do anything about it, but had it recorded and documented as far as for the future to tell what happened. But his mutilated face is a Luciferian inversion symbol of powerless suffering and turning life and innocence into the iconic illusion of why they fear our awakening. And I call this too, what they did to Emmett Till. If you go on Google and look at his face, what they did to him is what I call possession frenzy, meaning that they internalized this hate to the point where it became possessive. Once hatred overruns your program and then it starts possessing your mind, you will now go into a frenzy to where the person that you don't want to awaken to your hatred, you now send a message to where the person who, for Jet Magazine, they took a picture of Emmett Till's skull. A piece of his skull fell out. They beat him so bad that his mother had an open casket funeral so the world could see what they did to her child. And not only just a child, a universal child. That was probably that is the most deceitful action that still won't get justice. And it happens every single day. Imagine the stories that we don't hear about our people in sundown towns or the racist towns that don't get talked about. Imagine all my people who are just driving on a dark road right now. It's 3:44, they're driving on a dark road, getting pulled over by these beings, these sorcerers. Shit don't stop, bro, just because like we're in a different time period. No. These internalized systems that are programming other people, they'll keep on doing the exact same purpose that they were meant to fulfill through the darkness. Subconscious obedience, meaning if we step out of line, then that can still happen to us. Generational acceptance of violence. I mean, do we not accept it? I mean, we got people watch baddies. People watch grown women fighting. I mean, why do you think Drewski did it with Could Have Been Love or Could Have Been Reunion? Our people, even when they get famous, they're still going to do the one thing that causes us to look idiotic, and that's fighting each other. Why is it that you look like me, I look like you, and we're fighting each other over somebody who's watching us fight each other over a dollar bill? But yet you trust God. It's just amazing to me. Subconscious submission programming. The media is a ritual altar, and Jet Magazine was a spell on the mind to keep scrolling and read the broadcasting of pain, psychic energy, harvesting, traumatic images meant to activate the amygdala, which still has us in survival mode. MK Ultra, through trauma, visual programming, and to keep us under their perpetual victimhood. This was meant to stop our consciousness from awakening our spirit, and meant to lock the carbonated mind to generational fear and identity-based suffering, while making sure to continue weakening masculine energy so we don't rebel spiritually. The media was used to broadcast the trauma globally. And they knew what they were doing because what we do physically will echo for eternity. Remember that quote. What we do physically will echo for eternity. What they did, and they took a picture of it too, willingly, and put it on the magazine. What they did, they were putting us under their mind control. And the amygdala is the reason why we're still in survival mode right now, because that hasn't even been activated. So for example, if you don't fear black people or carbonated beings, go into a low-income neighborhood with all them outside drinking, music's playing, girls outside, kids outside, adults outside smoking, tank tops on, whatever. Drive to their neighborhood with your doors unlocked and your windows rolled down. Just driving, minding your own business. I guarantee you're going to have a second thought about doing that. Go into a low-income neighborhood, go to a gas station. Will you actually go into that gas station? And if you do go in there, will you not fear for your life, thinking that somebody may rob the establishment? Go into a low-income neighborhood and go see Planned Parenthood. Just go in there. Understand, all these things that they do, They're doing it because the media is going to place, it's like a satanic sacrifice. The media is going to portray that into us accepting, because they already understand that, for one, the CIA doesn't have to do anything anymore. We've been through so much that the energy that we don't learn or symbolize becomes a symbolism or a symbolic imagery for them to use against us through sound waves, through vibrations, through poles. And now while these poles are, so like light poles or telephone poles, for example, 5G towers, when they're stacking these towers in our neighborhoods, outside of our neighborhoods, they're creating a barrier. This barrier now, as this barrier, so it's like a roof over your head. It's like a blanket, a Luciferian blanket or a sigil. When this symbolism in our skies is disguised by a holographic illusion of a CGI programming called the sky, when that is above our houses, above our mindset, you now walk outside your house, you go inside of your house, and you're under their mind control no matter what you do. That's why they have those wires outside your household, because they're literally listening and streaming your consciousness to keep you more dumb. Because you're always on your phone, you're always on technology. So if you're not on there, you can't be programmed to their submissive obedience that they obey with our command. But we lost that command because we lost our commandments, and because we fear awakening now, they're already awakened to our unconscious awakening process that will never actually be awakened, so we become awakened within our own internalized hatred that we have towards what we don't understand about ourselves. Luciferianism literally thrives through inversion. This is why occult societies make evil appear as good and good appear as evil. But what is good and evil when our actors being crucified on the stage that shines light upon our darkest memories that we observe through their story of what they think should happen to us? Excuse me. Instead of Emmett being seen as a title that should lead humanity to higher expectations for ourselves and divine war against evil, excuse me, mentally, his death was wrapped up in a way that glorifies suffering by bloodline sorcerers in human form. I spelled that wrong too. In human form, and this kept carbonated people stuck to their trauma that they made an identity with and passed it on to us worse than what the Archons did. Each time we repost, replay, watch, learn, or retell Emmett Till's experience without spiritually transmitting the message upon the title, those same unseen forces feed on our amygdala again. Because every time when we watch all the slave movies, when we tell the stories, when we learn it, when we constantly talk about it and we repost it, our survival mode is now going to fight against us being aware of what it's fighting against. Why are you fighting yourself with what happened to you or what happened to your experience? Because spiritually, none of this stuff ever happens to us, because physically we're watching it happen to beings who mimic the lighter version of our melanin. That is why these experiences are shown constantly in movies and documentaries, school books, unless most concentration school systems have stopped teaching the awakening. And the media, and they make fun of us, and they do push this experience out for money so they can reopen our wounds while never planning to heal them. So how will humanity, now I can't spell today, how will humanity heal their mental wounds that don't exist consciously? This example of Emmett keeps carbonated beings or people in a spell of remembrance and reminders without seeing a resolution. And this is the goal for energy harvesting systems to keep on flourishing in. That's how you know I was in a rush, bro. I'm trying to get these videos going. Like, I'm so motivated this year to be better for my supporters. Like, I just didn't even care about the spelling errors. Like, fuck it. I make errors too, but guess what? You know what the message is about, though, don't you? This example of Emmett keeps carbonated people in a spell of remembrance and reminders without seeing a resolution. And this is the goal for energy harvesting systems to keep on flourishing in. The narrative told us to never forget the pain they will always put us through, so we can never feel empowered again, like our future, past, present observations in higher realms. Luciferians feed off energetic repetition through symbolic inversion. And do that inversion. So I want to go back to that point as well before I end off the video. My bad for talking so fast as well. I mean, it's damn near 4 o'clock a.m. I want to be able to get some sleep, get this video out for y'all. So I'm rushing my thoughts. But whenever I get healed, I'll be better for y'all. But no excuses. So anyways, when I was saying I feel like he's an actor or she's an actor, whatever the case may be. Because remember, these are vampires. You're actual bounty hunters. So when extraterrestrial parasitic entities, when they modified our consciousness and put it into a vessel, That was when the inversion happened. Now, of course, many were able to escape, like myself and some other people as well who watch my videos. But some people weren't able to escape because they weren't able to realize their mission upon this earth. Meaning that many people I met who DM me, who watch my videos, I realized that there are many people who are spiritually babies, meaning that they haven't climbed the realms of consciousness, so they're not able to observe their thoughts. They're not able to become divine just yet. They don't understand what it takes to be spiritually aware in a world that lacks the awareness of spirituality or consciousness, and how to contradict those two titles that never existed to the Almighty observation. So by the being Emmett Till being the observation of itself, this never happened to Emmett Till, but it happened to the experience of what the projection of Emmett was never being. Meaning that through the outer lands of Saturn and all these other worlds as well, there was a video. Oh yeah, I know I got it bookmarked. I know I got this shit bookmarked. There was a video of a guy. I know if I didn't bookmark it, I'm gonna be mad at myself. But I know the picture though. There was a being who he had a video about the outer lands, and there was a second America, like the land of clones. It was so much that was going on. I was reading it. I was like, what the fuck? But it's not too far-fetched, though, because the mimicry of America and these states that we're living in, it came from somewhere out of these worlds. Oh, yeah, don't forget, a lot of my bookmarks. Yeah, we got a lot of videos. I got so many teachings for y'all. The information just does not stop. It does not stop. Okay, is this the video? It's maybe the video reflections, and maybe the video.
Can't go to Antarctica. This is another me over there.
You see how things are looking less and less and less like fiction every day.
This is the video. We did it. Okay. Now I want to react to this video too. A lot of my videos I use for the future messages for you all to see through the symbolism. So every time you see me bookmark something, it's going to get exposed. And if it doesn't, I'm going to take my time with it because I want to provide valuable information for you all to be able to perceive. For this sneeze, hold on. That felt good. That felt good.
The reason why we can't go to Antarctica, because this is another me over there.
You see how things are looking less and less and less like fiction every day. See right here, this is the known lands. This is everybody's seen this map. This is the most confunded map, right? This is the known lands. This is where we are. This is outside of the ice walls right here, and this is outside of that mountain wall. This is the Anunnaki lands. This is Mars right here.
Yep.
This is Venus right here. This is the celestial lands. This is Neptune.
Now think about it as well. The celestial lands is where our thoughts are projected to be observing itself outside of. Meaning that with these lands, when you become a celestial deity, physically, you'll be able to project your thoughts and bring them over to Earth. Not only just that, Neptune, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, all these different lands or solar systems that are systematically enslaving us in their realm, they're outside of our ice wall. That's exactly why, if you can see the ice wall right here, that's why Antarctica is a realm or a subterranean land that we are not able to go over, because if we were to go over there, we'll be able to go back home. And they don't want us to leave them. Luciferians don't want us to leave them, because look at what we have done as far as Babylon goes, or Rome.
Here is Second Earth, the land of the clones. Now, I know we all talked about this map being, for education and entertainment purposes, and a work of fiction. But I mean, there's so many supporting facts that it just has to make you wonder, right? Again, Second Earth, the clones. You got America 2 right here. You got Europa 2. You've got the land of experiments. You've got the great tiara of the deserters. And
these deserters have deserted themselves from these lands. Experiments. We are these experiments. Now understand as well, America's not what we think it is, which is exactly why I said Emmett Till was not actually here for real. His programming was served to be here, but it was already served here. Second Earth, land of clones, meaning that we're all clones. So they clone Tyrone was not in this dimension. It was outside of here and away from here as well, because understand as well, if you look down at this map, you're basically on the moon. That's why we will never get there. We will never go there. But there are beings on the moon right now because the moon is hollow, so you can't stand on the moon. And inside of it is a whole ecosystem of higher celestial deities that are descending our consciousness every single day by observing the lands that have firmaments or barriers on top of them, because they are doing what? Kidnapping, enslaving women, celestial embodiments of a woman's mind, and then they're making them physical modifications that are gigantic in nature, unconscious, sleep in their own spell casting, and formed into mothers who are miniature versions of our celestial mom. And then as they invert that, they're now going to experiment on their genetic makeup, put this projection into America, ship it off through a plane or a boat or whatever, or a UFO, UAP, or modify it through vibrations or sound or imagery. And then once they project that by these unconscious illusions that we think are real, now we modify them back on our terrain of unconsciousness, and that's inward within the Arctic wall.
Here, you got the land of organs.
Organs, that's exactly why they had to traffic children, because when people say these celebrities have islands, this and that, a lot of times you're not going to find these islands outside of California or within the ocean. A lot of times they're literally going within the earth, or they're just transmitting their energy into a different dimension that we cannot fathom. They're not actually people for real. So thank you for that. But that's why I say that, because this being had to understand that what was happening to him at that moment was going to be so brutal that his sacrifice was meant for him to send a message for us to be able to understand. And yet my people still have a hard time comprehending why they're harvesting our energy every single day, because it's in our blood to harvest our own energy. So we can't blame or point the finger at this political figure, this constitution, that constitution. Doesn't even matter, because we all run the system. We are the system enslaving ourselves. So when will we step up and take accountability for what isn't good or evil? We choose what good or evil is because, of course, that comes from our being. But what are we being if we're not being good or evil? We choose to observe both of these actions that we could emulate. But these beings, because they internalized how they feel about themselves onto us, they became what they hated amongst themselves. And then once they've seen us, they manipulated and alchemized our ways against ourselves, to where now we turn on ourselves and on them. So the war is just not the outside validation that we are seeing every day. It's the internalized depiction of what we think we're supposed to be following or being guided by. And if the parents are not being protective of their children, then who's protecting them? The streets, influencers, celebrities, money, losing their morals. So I just wanted to make this video because we can go into rabbit hole all day, but I really appreciate you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. And y'all know I do love making like an hour-long videos, because a lot of times you can really learn a lot from my contradictions, and I do talk fast, so I do apologize for that. But I just want to make sure I can give y'all this quality content and every single day. And whenever I do stop, posting content some days, just know I'm always working for a better mindset for us to transcend, so that we can lead this dimension spiritually. And once again, thank you for subscribing, thank you for liking my videos, thank you for always commenting and asking me questions. And I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm lying through my truth. So if you enjoyed this video and you made it this far, it's time to heal my genetic makeup. Comment that down below. It's time to heal my genetic makeup. It's time to heal my genetic makeup. If you made it this far, comment that down below, so I know that you really are tuned in. You really are not just typing it just to make me feel better. No, you're typing it because you understand that this whole video spoke to your spiritual awareness. Have a great and divine day, divine reflection. Said that way too fast. Have a great and divine day, divine reflection. Get it together. God damn, mind.